Welcome back to the show, you Colorado Patriots. If you opened up the Denver Pravda, I mean the Denver Post today, all 43 of you subscribers that are out there, you probably saw a classic establishment hit piece. They are screaming from the rooftops because Victor Marx, the political outsider, currently dominating the Republican primary for governor, decided not to show up to their latest debate circus. His opponents, Scott Bottoms and Barbara Kirkmeyer, are doing what career politicians do best, name-calling. They're calling Victor chicken and a coward. The Post is happy to print it. As a side note, we all knew that when the Rocky Mountain News was absorbed, that we would end up with one of the most worthless newspapers in our great nation. But I digress. So let's pause and take a look at actual reality. This is a man who has spent decades entering active conflict zones to rescue children from human traffickers and ISIS territory. And he's afraid of a couple of politicians and a microphone? Give me a break. Come on, common sense here, folks. Today, we're going to break down the real reason Victor Marx is bypassing these debates and why it's actually a brilliant move for the future of Colorado. So let's talk about numbers first, because the media loves to bury the lead. The Denver Post buried a massive piece of data deep in their own article. According to a recent Signal research poll of over 600 Republican and unaffiliated primary voters, here's where the race currently stands. Victor is winning by a staggering 44-point margin over his closest competitor. He already won almost 40% of the vote at the state assembly. And when you're sitting at nearly 60% support, you don't need to participate in a circular firing squad designed by establishment moderators to manufacture sound bites. Victor said himself on YouTube, "We didn't know we'd be winning by this much," which means I don't actually even need to do a debate. That's not cowardice, that's basic political strategy, and a massive vote of confidence from the people of Colorado. In addition, there are a couple more metrics that we really need to take a look at. When asked if the state is headed in the right direction, almost 86% of respondents said it's headed in the wrong direction. And in addition, when asked what their appetite for change was, 75% said they wanted major change. That's huge. That doesn't mean the status quo. Hint, hint, Barb and Scott. What that means is Colorado is ripe and ready, just as our nation was with our current president, for a change. No more status quo politics. Let's get someone in there that can actually do something for the citizens of Colorado. So, the Denver Post and his opponents want you to think that Victor is hiding in a bunker. They claim he's not willing to show the people who he actually is. I think maybe they have PTSD of Biden hiding in his basement somewhere, when in reality, that's not the case. I don't think they're living in the same state that the rest of us are. As Marx's spokesperson Rachel Flick rightly pointed out, Victor isn't hiding. He is holding massive rallies and showing up everywhere. It's interesting how others in our party and on the air are trying to change this fact by lying. He is doing the hard work of real politics. He's looking Colorado voters in the eye, shaking their hands, and listening to their concerns about crime, the economy, and the border. Look, he's visited more counties, more cities, more people than all of the other candidates combined. But no one's telling you this. They're all lying to us just to suit their narrative. Victor's bypassing the middleman. Why let a biased media outlet or a structured, restricted 90-minute debate format dictate his platform when he can spend hours every day directly interacting with the voters? The establishment is mad because they can't control him, and his opponents are mad because they can't use his massive spotlight to salvage their own struggling campaigns. Again, sound familiar? And speaking of the Denver Post, let's look at their hilarious clarification at the bottom of the article. They felt the absolute need to update the piece to clarify that Victor Marx is not an ordained minister or pastor, but rather the founder of All Things Possible Ministries, which uses the Christian gospel to rescue trafficking victims. They think that's a gotcha, but to the people of Colorado, that's exactly why we love him. He's not a career politician, folks, and he's not a talking head preacher. He's a guy who rolls up his sleeves and does the actual dangerous work of saving lives. If the Denver Post thinks that clarifying that he runs a highly successful global anti-trafficking nonprofit is going to hurt him with Republican and independent voters, they're completely out of touch. But I guess I answered my own question there. Look, Scott Bottoms talked about wanting to stand in the arena, but the arena isn't a podium at a televised debate sponsored by mainstream media. The arena is out here in the communities of Colorado, where families are struggling to buy groceries and safe neighborhoods are disappearing. Victor Marx is already in that arena, and the voters have already noticed, giving him a commanding 59% lead. I've been to his rallies. Victor will meet with 2 people, 4 people, thousands of people, and that's exactly what he's doing. So let the career politicians debate each other for second place. Victor is just going to keep talking to you directly. That's all for today's episode, so remember, don't buy the media narrative. Look at the results. And as always, stay sharp, question everything, and don't confuse volume for credibility.